Hey everybody, this is Eric Brady with Seattle Sound Home Inspections. We're just taking an opportunity this week with the slowdown we've had in the Seattle housing market to do little home improvement projects. This is my own home. It was built in 1961, galvanized original piping. And this often comes up in home inspections as to, why is it an issue? Why is it a major concern when we find it in older homes such as this one? After roofing costs, typically the two major concerns or expenses you get with homes is plumbing and electrical. And this is obviously plumbing. And what you see here is the hot water line. I went ahead and ran the hot water and just felt the pipe get hot, and then wrote it on there so I could keep it straight, which was which. What happens there is the oxygen in the water starts bonding with the iron in the pipe once the zinc coating has worn out from the inside of the pipe. The zinc coating is the gray you see there, and what happens is these tend to rust from the inside out. So often it'll come up with, well, the pipe looks fine. Sometimes, and usually it is fine, but you can't tell how far you are from this happening. You can see this is actually rusting from the inside out, and there's not a lot holding that pipe together other than rust right now. So it's time for a repipe. I opened this up in order to locate what's what. This goes into the master bathroom above. There's the cold line there, ducting for the master bathroom. There's a vent for the hall bath. And then over here, there's a shared wall for the tub and the hall bath above and the master shower. They both are supplied here with hot on the right and cold on the left. They must switch in the wall somewhere. So anyway, we're just getting access here. On a national average, galvanized pipes last about 50 years. Here in the Puget Sound, anecdotally, we see that last a bit longer. This house is in 1961, so doing my super math real quick, that's 57 years. And, could this last longer? Well, we've been here 6 years, and I knew when I bought it that we were right at the limit. And so it's been on my to-do list. And so we're opening this up today just to evaluate where the shared walls are and come up with a plan for routing the new PEX piping through here. I did get a bid on this house. It's a 3-bathroom house with a finished basement. Finished basement includes more work for the plumber because he has to go through all this. That was $8,500 for the repipe on this house. I expect that for me, with a little bit of know-how, this will take me about 40 hours plus or minus, and cost me maybe about $1,000 in parts at most. And so you do the math on that, and it's about $150 an hour, which is not bad. And even if I mess it up and have to call a plumber in for some of it to help me out, then I'm still ahead. So let me just show you what we got here. This is the downstairs basement bathroom. There's 2 bathrooms above being fed through here. The water enters the house over on this wall, so generally the water needs to come this way. And then it feeds up into this next wall. Let's go around here. I finished the closet of this bedroom after we moved in, but I made a little custom feature here. I made the ceiling removable so that I could get into this plumbing at a later date because I knew it was going to need to happen. That's the sanitary elbow for the hall bath above. So the toilet sits on top of this and your waste comes down here. You can see at some point it was leaking. That's actually lead, so I'm not going to lick my fingers after this. And then this goes into a black iron pipe. You can see things have been modified over the years. There's some plastic, and if you get my flashlight out, there's some copper here and there. And you can see it's kind of a nest here of just lots of things going on. This is the hall bath sink above. This is the hot line back here. I wrote hot. And this is the cold line here. Cold line's original. You can see that the pipe on the hot at some point was almost completely rusted in. And they switched it to copper. Now they actually did this right. They went from copper to brass to galvanized, and that keeps the the copper and the iron from forming a copper iron, an anode and a diode, and forming a battery, which accelerates the rusting. So when you put brass between it, it still happens a little bit, but it's significantly reduced so that it's not a concern usually with a home. So we finished the playroom next door to here, and you can see there's the CPVC piping here. This was a while you're at it thing that I did. There's a hose bib on that side of the house just fed by this line. The galvanized line was completely fine. I cut it open and looked at it, and honestly, no water's really hardly ever been run through that. So it was fine, but I was finishing the ceiling, so I didn't want to leave it behind. So I just slapped some CPVC up there, and we'll tie into this with the new PEX, and we connected here. And you can see this is a little bit of a funny thing here, but this is an interior cold water shutoff. If I ever want to deactivate for whatever reason that hose bib in the carport, I can turn off the water here. And if it's really cold, or I'm really concerned, or maybe we're going to leave the house vacant for some season, we could drain that line here into a bucket. You can see that I'm not doing that normally, but I just, while you're at it, it cost me $2 more in fittings, and now it's done. So if I ever want to use that, I may put an elbow on there and get it down here so I can drain it more easily into a bucket or whatever, but it's there. So we'll tie into that with the new PEX piping. You can see the drain lines are both black iron and galvanized. At some point, those may have to be replaced. But because those aren't holding water all the time, we don't tend to see those needing to be replaced unless you've got a huge horizontal line where those get clogged back up. So anyway, there's some, like I said, there's some way back in there. If I had a light, I could show you. There's some copper. Let's go ahead and take you around to where we, this is the playroom that we finished. Take you around to the laundry room here. And this is what we've had done previously. Actually paid to have the galvanized line coming into the house replaced, and that ran $3,500 to $4,500 for about 45 feet of piping, and they charge you, an upcharge depending on how long it is, although typically the work is all in on either end. And then you can see we come in, it's an 1.5 inch line, or 1.25 inch line, and we step down to a 1 inch. We have the pressure reducing valve copper with the shark bite fittings. I'm actually going to buy the equipment to do all the fittings just to save some money when I do this repipe. But if you ever have a small job, shark bite's a great option for tying different materials together, though the fittings are quite spendy. There's a line coming in. There's a shutoff for the hot water. You can see we go to, well, not quite, but we eventually, that goes up to the hot water heater, and then right here there's a T, and that's the cold water line that ties into the old house system, which right now is just supplying cold water to the house. We separated this out right here, and this is 3/4 inch line here, expansion tank. I did this install myself, tankless water heater, and that was really largely to teach myself how this is done, so that when we're inspecting these, that we have some clue as to what's going on. It's nothing like learning how to do it yourself, doing it yourself and learning how it's done. There's a temperature pressure relief valve back there. It technically only has to be a temperature relief valve on these, or rather a pressure relief valve, because the electronics take care of the temperature, but that's just what they sell, so we put one of those on. Shut off here so we can isolate and a shut off here so we can isolate the boiler if we ever need to service it. You can see it's a large diameter line coming into the tankless hot water heater. These use quite a bit more gas than you would expect. This small tankless water heater for a typical suburban American home consumes 80% more gas, natural gas, or methane as the British say, than the furnace for this house. So you need to make sure you have enough gas supply in order to have one of these installed. You can't just slap these in any old house without additional homework. Right now we're running just a recirc line that goes way down there and connects in where the old hot water, we used to have a standing 50 gallon, or was it 60 gallon actually, standby standard electric water heater. We converted to gas in order to save fuel costs. Got things opened up here. We've got kind of a plan going on. Cold water is going to go in through that hole down there. This is a wet wall, so all the plumbing is in this wall, and there's a space to feed everything through. The hot water is going to go behind the sheetrock here, and this will all be removed. The red piping go up to the kitchen sink, connect in. So I have another access port to cut there, and we're going to go ahead and relocate the washer connections while we're at it into this hole. And this is also where we're going to feed the lines up into this wall, which then connect into that strip I've cut in the bathroom, which allows access to the rest of the bathrooms upstairs. This here just is the location access point for feeding hot and cold into the basement bathroom sink. So yeah, that's kind of the layout. We're just kind of come up with a plan today. I don't have all my parts or my tools yet, but we're gonna go ahead and once we have the plan, make that big purchase run and get it all laid out. And yeah, within a week we should be running on new piping in this house. So again, it's about a $7,500 savings to do this yourself. That of course varies depending on the contractor, how busy they are, whether you know somebody, you know, whatever. I mean, we always recommend 5 bids to our clients because you typically get some prices on stuff, is what I call the I don't want to do this job price, where contractors will give you a high price because they're busy, and if you are willing to pay that, then they will find a way to make it happen. They might have to hire somebody or whatever, do additional work. So anyway, that's it. I thought you'd like to see the layout here and kind of what this involved. This took me maybe 2 hours to do these cuts. You know, you can see where the studs are in the wall. This is lightly finished laundry room, so it's just some observation skills. You can see where those studs are. We just used a tool called a hole saw or a sheetrock saw, depending on how you want to do that. You just basically jab it through the sheetrock and you saw in a hopefully straight line or straight-ish line, and you know, give yourself enough room to work. We generally want to cut onto these studs, and we'll use a box cutter or construction knife, depending on what industry you're from, what you call that. Try and cut that so that there's a little bit of wood showing on that stud. You can see here I'm going to need to do some cleanup. I had to break this one because of this, but generally we're trying to make that cut come right on that stud. You can use a stud finder if you need to. I didn't. This wall has so much piping in it that a stud finder would be pretty hard to work with. But anyway, and then actually if you're careful, like this one down here, we'll be able to save that piece, insert it back in there, screw it back down, and then just do a standard patch job in order to cover that over. In the case of the bathroom, we're going to skim coat the entire ceiling because there's a texture in that ceiling as we finish this. And so we'll skim coat this entire ceiling with a new coat of mud, and then we may or may not texturize the ceiling. We'll protect the walls so the texture on the walls is protected. But anyways, this is why you have to repipe with Galvi. You know, we often get questions, well, it's working, what's the big deal? Well, it's working today, but you know, maybe somebody drops something on the floor above and vibrates that pipe and starts spraying through the ceiling. This is what lawsuits are made out of. So we call it. And if it's anywhere near 50 years old, it's just due diligence to, and our professional practice to call it and say, anticipate replacement. And that doesn't mean it's going to be done even in the next 5 years, but if it's older than 45 years old, it's marginal in our report, and it goes in there, and because it could start leaking. And we want our clients to be aware of that. So, that being said, you know, look, I bought a house with galvanized piping. I have a little bit more knowledge than your average bear, but this is not a huge deal. You just need to know it's here, and it needs to be accounted for in the way you're thinking about your deal. So anyway, if you know anybody who's looking for a home inspection in the Seattle area, go ahead and put them in contact with me. The website's Seattle Sound Home Inspections with an S on the end .com, and I'm Eric Brady, and yeah, hope to hear from you. I'll put a couple more of these up as we're doing this project, maybe kind of midway. If I can get somebody to hold the camera for me, maybe I'll do some where I'm demonstrating how you actually work with the PEX piping. So anyways, hope you guys have a good one. Bye.